This is Mike on Cars and Bikes, and today we're doing a review on a new toy that I just got. So this is the Harbor Freight $40 air compressor.
And so this compressor is loud, maybe too loud. If you're wondering how loud it actually is, here's a screenshot of my phone measuring it. 80 decibels, maybe too much.
Now, to talk about why I got this compressor, it's important to know what problem I'm solving. So the idea is that I want to be able to easily set the tire pressure on my car, as well as Mrs. Mike's car, about once a month. And in the apartments, I would use this guy. Tire pump. I'd also have my trusty tire gauge, this guy, which I've had for a long time. Still want to use it on every track day I go to. But now I have the Harbor Freight air compressor. So I also have my new tire chuck, which has the case. I now have the tire chuck, which has the tire gauge on it. I really tried to find one that had very good graduations around 30 psi. This is about the best one I could find, and I find that it works fairly well. With Harbor Freight, everything is kind of sold separately. And so you need to buy the air compressor, you also need to buy the hose, you also need to buy the fittings. I got a little fitting kit. It came with some extra doodads. It came with a quick disconnect, so I can easily connect these together. And I flip this back around. Let's go ahead and set the tire pressure on Daisy. And it's not going to be on until you turn it on to the tool. So you got to open this valve. Then we can start filling up the tires. So the tires on the Corvette should be 30 psi. Some people just throw these little caps away because what's the point? What's the point? You got to keep debris from coming out of the valve or going in the valve. So even with this, I still like to check it with my fancy tire gauge to show you exactly 30 psi. And then you go around and do the rest of the tires. Now, the interesting thing that I just found is that the tire chuck that I got from Harbor Freight for not very much goes up to about 220 pounds. Now that's a ton, more than any tire would ever support. And I've also found that this is fairly inaccurate. So to give you an example, I'll try to increase the pressure on the tires to about 30 psi. And you can see the tire chuck is reading about 38 psi. If I go up a little bit, it'll go up to 40. 40 is clearly too high, almost dangerously high. The max psi on these tires should be about 50. When I use my standard tire chuck, I can see that instead of 40, it's really 30. And I'll need to bleed off most of that air I just put in. And that's about as close as we're gonna get it. And so the result is this tire chuck needs to read about 38 in order to have an accuracy very close to the gauge that I've been using for a very long time and I know to be accurate. This gauge, however fancy, includes a tire chuck, not very accurate. Now, as I wind this guy back up, you can see that I didn't get the automatic roller upper, just a manual wind, which for 25 feet of hose, perfectly fine. Although this does get a little annoying going through and making sure all the coils are together. You could just make it a big rat's nest, but who wants that? I want to go like this. Make this a little bit easier on myself. And maybe the closing thoughts are, spent about $100 on this stuff from Harbor Freight. And the question you're asking is this really worth it? Is it worth $100 to fill up your tires a few times a day, a few times a month? And the answer I'll wind up this cord and I'll put this thing back. This is a lot of stuff for $100, and maybe you could use it for other things. Use it for blowing up pool toys if you have pool floats and such. But this certainly beats the bike pump. If you remember, so this is what we started with. When we all started, we started with a bike pump. Now, for track days, I'm still going to need a little portable air compressor to air up the tires when the day's done and I need to drive home. And I still need to buy that $40 compressor, and it may take 5 minutes to air up the tires that it's lost in a given month, but it might be a little bit easier than winding up the hose and dealing with this thing and paying $100 for all this stuff. So just remember, you got to think about how you're going to use this stuff, and hopefully you can make some good decisions as to what you need in your garage. Signing off, this is Mike on Cars and Bikes.